Welcome back to the War Room. Today we're going to be doing another army review, and we're going to be diving into the forests to look at the Sylvaneth. It's a very cool faction. I don't think that it's one for the faint of heart. I think there's a lot of interesting and difficult mechanics to kind of get the hang of. The models are super cool. If you can get a hold of some of these gameplay mechanics and kind of figure out how they work and what works best and figure out all those situations to use each thing, I think that this is an army that can be very dangerous on the tabletop. It's one that I play against a lot, so I've seen these guys a whole bunch on the table, and they are tough to deal with. They've got a lot of really good things, a lot of recursion, bringing models back, healing. They're tough to kill. But let's dive right into this. We're hopping into the battle traits. The first one is called Endless Growth. This is once per turn per army at the end of any turn. Pick any number of friendly Sylvaneth units wholly within 6 inches of any friendly Awakened Wyldwoods to be the targets. Heal each target for D3. We're going to get to Wyldwoods like right after this because they're a huge part of this army. If we explain it right now, it'll make more sense as we go through the rest of the army because there's a lot of things that the Wyldwoods kind of buff your entire army, and they're super good. So this is one of the mechanics that we're going to talk about here in a second. But you got Strike and Fade. This is once per turn per army at the end of any turn. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is in combat and is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Awakened Wyldwood to use this ability. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units and wholly within 6 inches of a different friendly Awakened Wyldwood. I know a lot of Sylvaneth players have complained about the new Strike and Fade. It is a bit of a nerf from the last edition, but you still have the ability to fight in the combat and then get out of there. You got to survive the combat now, so you have to be able to fight, take a hit, and then get out. So that makes it a little tricky. And then if you only have one Wyldwood, you can't use this, so you have to have at least two. But once again, we'll get to Wyldwoods here in a second. Walk the Hidden Paths. This is once per turn per army in your movement phase. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is not in combat and is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Awakened Wyldwood to use this ability. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units and wholly within 6 inches of a different friendly Awakened Wyldwood. So they just have all these teleport mechanics in and out of the woods. They heal from the woods. Their spell lore kind of helps out the woods a lot too. So we're actually going to hop into that real quick before we get to the battle traits. The Awakened Wyldwood. It's a 4-up armor save, no movement, 8 health, and no control. And it does have a 5-up ward, so it's one of the few, I feel like, faction terrains that has ward save. So in your deployment phase, you can use Deploy Wyldwood, set up this terrain feature wholly within friendly territory, more than 3 inches from all objectives and other terrain features. This terrain feature has now been deployed. This is just start of the game, right? In your deployment phase, you put down your faction terrain, you put down your forest. One of the keys is being able to place your forests well on the battlefield because you can place up to 3. Overgrown Wilderness. Enemy units can be targeted by shooting attacks made by friendly Sylvaneth units even if they are behind or wholly on this terrain feature. This is an exception to terrain 1.2. So normally, if you're behind a terrain feature and you can't see the unit you're shooting at, or you can't see through the terrain feature, you can't shoot them. Sylvaneth units can shoot through the Wyldwoods. And then Growing Woods. Each time you set up an Awakened Wyldwood, you can place 1 to 3 scenery pieces, terrain 1.7. If you place more than one scenery piece, the tips at the end of each base must touch, forming a circle. The area inside this circle is considered to be part of this terrain feature. For each additional scenery piece in this terrain feature that is placed after the first, add 2 to the health characteristic of this terrain feature. Increase the range of friendly abilities that require friendly models to be wholly within 6 inches of this terrain feature by 3 inches. So essentially, it just extends the range of your Wyldwoods. So if you just put one tree down, you got a 6-inch bubble around that where you can do your Strike and Fade from. You can do the Mortal Wounds, the Vengeful Forest Spirits that we're going to get to here in a second. If you have 2, that ranges up to 9 inches. If you have all 3 pieces together, it's 12 inches. So you can kind of plan that out, and you can make essentially half the board into like a giant forest. If you have all 3 out and they're all 3 of your Wyldwoods that you can place are all out, and they're all the little 3-piece ones, you have humongous ranges on the Wyldwoods abilities. Vengeful Forest Spirits is once per turn in any combat phase. Pick each enemy unit within this terrain features combat range to be the targets. Roll a dice for each target on a 4+, inflict D3 mortal damage on the target. So this is just a good way to just crank out some mortals. A lot of people who play against Sylvaneth just go and try and chop down all the trees, and that's a pretty good way to go about making so a huge part of their army doesn't work. We'll move on to battle formations now. We got Lords of the Clan, the Healing Song. When using the Endless Growth ability, Sylvaneth monsters can heal 3 instead of D3. That's a really solid one because your monsters are going to be fighting a whole bunch. If you got Belthanos, you've got Alarielle, you've got Lady of Vines, you've got your Tree Lords, things like that. They're healing base like a flat 3 instead of D3. If you have a bigger forest, right, the range of that is 12 from the full forest, right? The forests are super important to this army. You need to have them out there. You need to place them well, and they're going to help you out a lot because you can cast spells to help the forest. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and we'll get to here when we get to the spell lore as well. Outcasts, the Terror in the Eaves. Subtract 3 from the control scores of enemy units while they are in combat with friendly Sylvaneth units. This is another little control score manipulation thing. Can help. I don't think it's the best one of these, but if you're trying to manipulate control scores so that you're going to be on all the objectives and it's going to take people a lot more to throw at you, this is a way to do it. Forest Folk, you have the Lacerating Strike. Add 1 to the Rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Sylvaneth non-Kurnoth infantry units that charged in the same turn. There's not a whole lot of Sylvaneth like infantry that aren't Kurnothi. Like you have like Dryads and you've got Tree Revenants and Spite Revenants, but your Kurnothi are going to be a big chunk of your army, whether it's the bows or the swords or the scythes. Those are so strong and so good at what they do that there's no reason to take other infantry, and this doesn't affect Kurnothi infantry. So, Free Spirits, once per turn per army in your charge phase. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth cavalry unit to use this ability. This unit can use charge abilities even if it used a run ability this turn. Once again, the range of the models, there's only a couple of cavalry units, and you got it's the Spite Riders, you got the Chargers and the Lancers. And they're both, I think, are pretty solid for what they do. And so this gives them to run and charge. But a lot of people right now are just taking Belthanos anyways, and he can just pick 3 units that get run and charge. So if you want to really max out, I think Lords of the Clan is the way to do it, because Sylvaneth, the build right now is kind of going monster math and going Alarielle and Belthanos and the Lady of Vines. And then you got your Kurnothi and a couple other things. But the monster match seems to be the pretty strong pick. And if Belthanos is there, you don't need to use Free Spirits because you're just going to get a free one. Moving on to the heroic traits, you've got the Radiant Spirit trait. This is when your opponent has declared a spell or prayer ability. This unit, if it is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Sylvaneth unit, picked to be the target of that spell or prayer. Roll a dice on a 3+, ignore the effect of that spell or prayer on that unit. This unit can use this ability more than once per phase, but only once per spell or prayer ability. So it's just a 3+. Spell ignore, you have to be kind of close because it's a 12-inch range, but spell ignores are awesome. It helps you, especially like on a prayer ignore, because you can't unbind a prayer necessarily, but this gives you the ability to do that. The War Singer, in your movement phase, pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Add 2 inches to the move characteristic of the target for the rest of the turn. So this just gives, like, you guys are Kurnothi. If you're bringing swords, this gives them a little extra movement. Your Tree Lords, it gives them a little extra movement. If you want to make your cavalry extra quick, the Spell Singer, this is a passive ability. While this unit is within the combat range of an awakened Wyldwood, if this unit is a wizard, add 1 to the casting rolls for this unit. If this unit is not a wizard, it has wizard 1 instead. I think all of these are pretty good. I don't think any one of them really stands out a ton to me. If I was trying to play a very aggressive combat army and I had a bunch of swords, like Kurnoth with swords, and Belthanos, I think I would go the War Singer so that you can get everybody up closer. Or if you wanted to get your cavalry a couple extra inches of movement to get them even closer, I think that's a really good one. Or I would go with the Radiant Spirit. It's the 3+ spell ignore, is very good as well. Moving on to the artifacts of power, we've got the Seed of Rebirth. If this unit would be destroyed before removing it from play, roll a dice. On a 3+, this unit is not destroyed, and any remaining damage points inflicted on it have no effect. Then heal this unit for 1. This unit cannot use its ability again for the rest of the battle. This is a very popular build right now. You just give it to your Spirit of Durthu, your Tree Lords, whatever, and on a 3+, they just stand back up. Granted, they still only have 1 health left. The Greenwood Gladius, this is in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. The d3 2-up stuff I'm not a huge fan of. I think it should just be a d3. You get a 1, 2, or 3, you do that much mortals. But if you roll a 1 or a 2, then like you just don't get anything on like a d6, right? So it is just a good way to just keep chipping away with mortal damage. And then the Crown of Fellbowers. This is any combat phase as well. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. Add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Sylvaneth units that target that enemy unit during this phase. I would probably just go Seed of Rebirth, especially with the Monster Mash list that is out right now. You give the Seed of Rebirth to your Spirit of Durthu or someone, and they've got a chance to just stand back up. The Crown of Fellbowers on a 3+, adding 1 to wound is very good, especially since that's not like once per battle, that's any combat phase. That's another one I would do. Okay, moving on to the spell lore. You've got Tree Song, goes off on a 6. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth wizard to cast this spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. If there are fewer than 3 friendly Awakened Wyldwoods on the battlefield, you can set up an Awakened Wyldwood wholly within 24 inches of the caster, more than 3 inches from all objectives, and more than 1 inch from all enemy units and other terrain features. If there are already 3 friendly Awakened Wyldwoods on the battlefield, heal each friendly Awakened Wyldwood for 3. This is how you're getting out your trees. It goes off, it's really low, it goes off on a 6. Like if you're next to a place of power, you just need a 5 on the dice. But the trees are so important to what you're doing in this army. Wrathful Spirits. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth wizard to cast this spell. Pick a friendly Awakened Wyldwood wholly within 18 inches of the caster to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Sylvaneth units while they are wholly within 6 inches of the target. +1 to rend is awesome, and this is, once again goes off on a 6. It's super low. You do have to be wholly within 6 inches of the Wyldwood that you cast this on, but if you just sit some people down in the Wyldwood, make people come to you, you're going to be +1 rend. So a lot of your stuff's going to be 2 rend, 3 rend, and you're going to be blasting through armor. The Dwellers Below, this is your classic horde killer. It goes off on a 7. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit that is either within 12 inches of this unit or within 6 inches of an Awakened Wyldwood to be the target. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the target unit. For each 5+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. This is kind of cool because you can shoot this like through the Wyldwood. It's only a 6-inch range out of the Wyldwood, but if you have something that's trying to chop down your trees, then you can just shoot this through and try and pick off some of those guys. Pretty cool little mechanic. I like the way that the magic works with the trees and everything. It's just a cool army. Moving on to the manifestation lore. Got the Summon Spite Swarm Hive. It goes off on a 7. You got the Glade Worm, it also goes off on a 7. And then you've got the Vengeful Skull Root, which also goes off on a 7. So the Spite Swarm Hive, it's got a 6-up armor save, no movement, 7 health, banishes on a 7+, and then has a 6+ ward save. It's got the Hive Nourishes ability. Pick a visible friendly Sylvaneth unit within 3 inches of this manifestation to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+. Pick one of the following effects to apply to the target for the rest of the turn. Vital Vemons. Add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for the target, or Shielding Swarm. The target has a ward of 6+. This is kind of just your buff piece. He's going to give you +1 to run and charge, 6-up ward. If you've got your Kurnothi with swords, give him a 6-up ward before they charge into combat. We've got the Glade Worm, 4-up armor save, 8-inch movement, 7 health, banishes on a 7+, and it has a 6-up ward save. It's melee weapons. It's got the Fearsome Mandibles and Bladed Carapace. 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage D3 with anti-wizard +1 rend. It has the Burrow Below. ability, this is in your movement phase. If this manifestation is not in combat, remove it from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy non-wizard units, more than 3 inches from all enemy wizards. And then at the end of any turn, feed on Eldritch Energy. Pick an enemy wizard in combat with this manifestation to be the target. Subtract 1 from casting rolls, unbinding rolls, and banishment rolls for the target until the end of your next turn. He's just kind of like your wizard. He just kind of saps the life out of your wizard. He's plus rend on the wizard. He can pop up 3 inches away from just outside of 3 of all wizards. It's super annoying. It's just a 4-up save, 6-up ward save, so it's not anything super crazy to get rid of. But if this hits into your little foot wizard, they're going to die. Like the D3 damage on 6 attacks can just obliterate anyone at rend 2. So he's kind of just a little piece to do that. And then the Vengeful Skull Root. 4-up armor save, 6-up ward save, 8-inch movement, 8 health, banishes on a 7+. It's got the Lumbering Bulk, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1 damage, D3. It has the Creeping Willow ability, so this manifestation counts as an Awakened Wildwood for the purposes of Endless Growth, Walk the Hidden Paths, and Strike and Fade. It's a mobile Wildwood, so you can technically get 4 of them out there, which is pretty crazy. Vengeful Terrors, this is at the end of any turn. Pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of this manifestation to be the target. For the rest of the turn, subtract an amount from the target's control score equal to the number of friendly units that have been destroyed this battle, not including manifestations or faction terrain. So another way to kind of manipulate control score here. But I really like their manifestations, especially like the Glade Worm. You see a little hero that's kind of just out there on his own in the back line doing his thing. You throw the Glade Worm in there, and the Glade Worm probably kills him. Moving on to the War Scrolls now. The first one, we've got Alarielle the Everqueen. 3-up armor save, 6-up ward save, Wizard 3, 14-inch movement, 16 health, control 5. Spear of Kurnoth is a ranged weapon, 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 4. And then the melee weapons, you've got the Spear of Kurnoth, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2. And then Wardroth's Great Antlers, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 4, with the companion keyword there. Alarielle is awesome. We're going to dive into her abilities right now too, but just her base profile I think is really good, and she just does so many things. She's a ton of points. I think she's 680 points, so she's a huge chunk of your army. But she has all of these really cool abilities that just help everything work. When she has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Wardroth Great Antlers are 4. In any hero phase, you can do the Life Bloom, pick one of the following effects, add 1 to casting rolls for this unit for the rest of the turn, heal 2d3 for this unit. So she's healing 2d3 every turn if you don't kill her in one go. War Scroll spell, it's called Metamorphosis, goes off on a 7. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Inflict 2d3 mortal damage on the target. If the target is destroyed by this spell, you can immediately resolve the effect of the Tree Song spell as if this unit had successfully cast it. So if you destroy something with this spell, you can do Tree Song, which is to bring an Awakened Wildwood into the game or heal all of your Wildwoods 3. It's a really good spell. There's a lot of, I'm trying to think of other spells. You got like Fangs of the Bad Moon where you can do just a ton of mortals. This one, 2d3 mortals, is awesome. I wish everybody had some sort of spell like this, but I get that this is like her special one. Moving on to Rite of Life. This is once per turn per army in your movement phase. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that has been destroyed to be the target. This unit can use this ability if it has been destroyed, but if it does, the unit must be the target, so she can bring herself back to life there. Roll a dice on a 4+, set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit rounding up, wholly within 9 inches of a friendly Awakened Wildwood, and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. If the target was a monster, allocate 6 damage points to the replacement unit. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. So here's your first little recursion mechanic. She can bring back any of your units that have died. It is on a 4+. I know a lot of people got some beef with the 4+, but I feel like a lot of times when I play against Sylvaneth and they're playing Alarielle, I see a lot of 4+ to get Belthanos back, to get your Kurnoth bows back, to get your swords back. It's pretty frustrating. But if you're not getting those units back, it does make Alarielle quite frustrating to bring, knowing how many points she is for this mechanic. You got the Living Battering Ram. This is once per turn per army in any charge phase. If this unit charged this turn, pick an enemy infantry unit within 1 inches of it to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. You just get to blast through infantry, possibly doing 6 mortals on impact, which is awesome. She's tough to take down. 16 health on a 3-up save with a 6-up ward save is tricky to deal with, but she is very good. Bringing back units is an excellent thing. The Lady of Vines, 3-up armor save, no ward save here, 8-inch movement, 8 health, 5 control. She got Kernathiel's Wrath, 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage d6. Kernathiel's Wrath and Lashing Vines, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2 with crit mortals. You've got the Verdian Crown. This unit counts as an Awakened Wildwood for the purposes of Endless Growth, Walk the Hidden Paths, and Strike and Fade abilities. So if you bring the Lady of Vines in your army, she's also an Awakened Wildwood for the sake of doing those things. So you can potentially have 5 Awakened Wildwoods that can do this, and you can cover the entire board to give you a Strike and Fade option, to give you Walk the Hidden Paths in your movement phase, and to do Endless Growth. Her War Scroll spell is the Aspect of the Everqueen. It goes off on a 7, make a casting roll of 2d6. Until the start of your next turn, friendly Sylvaneth units have a ward of 5+, while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So this is kind of a huge buff to just be giving out, because some of your Kurnoth don't have a ward save. Alarielle only has a 6-up ward save, and so if they're close to each other, you get a 5-up ward save, which is awesome. And then you got Writhing Vines, once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+. Pick one of the following effects to apply for the rest of the turn. Barrier, subtract 1 from hit rolls for the target's attacks, or Ensnare, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly units that target that enemy unit. You don't want the Lady of Vines getting tangled up in combat. She buffs everybody, right? She got Aspect of the Everqueen to give out that 5+ ward save. She's a wizard too, so you can really be dishing out some magic depending on what you take. Even if you take her, 2 casts is really good. I would probably cast this 5-up ward save one every single time. She's a very good auxiliary piece to kind of just help out your entire army. Moving on, we got Drycha Hamadreth, 3-up armor save, no ward save, wizard 1, 9-inch movement, 10 health, control 5. The ranged weapon, you got the Flitter Furies, 12-inch range, 10 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with shoot in combat and the companion keyword there. Melee weapons, you got Slashing Talons, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2, with anti-infantry +1 rend. And then you've got the Swarm of Squirmlings, 10 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with anti-infantry +1 rend and the companion keyword. You got the Mercurial Aspect, once per turn in any hero phase. Pick one of the following effects to apply to this unit for the rest of the turn. Enraged, add 10 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's Flitter Furies, or Embittered, add 10 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's Swarm of Squirmlings. These seem really good. Adding 10 attacks to something that already has 10, you're getting 20 attacks out of one of those, especially considering that they have rend already. Like, if you know Drycha is going to be fighting something, then you do the Swarm of Squirmlings, your 20 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. But if it's infantry, it's another rend, so it's rend 2. You're doing a ton of damage there. I think you've got a lot of hitting power, and then you've got her Slashing Talons, which are already really good anyways. She can go in there and kind of mess things up if she goes into infantry. Primal Terror. This is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 2+. Have the target's control score rounding up for the rest of the turn. You get another control score manipulation tactic here, which is pretty awesome considering this is on a 2+. And you drop their control score in half. So if she's going into a big block of infantry, she's control 5. So if you're going into 10 guys or 20 guys, you cut it in half, and if you kill a whole bunch of them, you can actually take an objective with her if she survives, which is pretty crazy. Her War Scroll spell, you got the Song of Spite, goes off on a 6. Pick an enemy infantry unit within 12 inches of the caster to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. The following effects apply for the rest of the turn. Add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Sylvaneth units that target that enemy unit. In addition, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Spite Revenants or the Twist Wield units that target that enemy unit. Adding 1 to hit for everything is awesome. Adding 1 to wound. This is a very specific thing because nobody's really running Spite Revenants or the Twist Wield from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot more Kurnothi units. I'm seeing some of the Spite Riders a little more, and then just the monsters. So +1 to hit is great. I think that's the reason you would take her, and just all of her anti-infantry stuff is seems really good. Moving on to Belthanos. Got a 3-up armor save, no ward save, 12-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. He's got the Kurnoth Glaive, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 2, damage 2, with charge +1 damage. And then the Carnelian Great Spites, Razor-like Mandibles, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3, with the companion keyword. Belthanos is awesome. I like Belthanos a lot. He's a little squishy because he doesn't have a ward save. If you get enough rend onto him, drops like a rock. He is battle damaged when he has 10 or more damage points. The attacks characteristics of the Carnelian Great Spites, Razor-like Mandibles goes down to 3. He's got Rhythm of the Chase. This is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Then you can remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield within 1 inch of the target. He is really annoying to kill because if you surround him, he just picks a unit. If he gets a 2+ on that D3, he can just flip over to the other side of the unit and get away from all the other stuff you were going to hit him with. I've been hit with this so many times. I've tried to make it so like it's impossible to do. I tried to work a way around it. It's not exactly easy to just take him down like that by surrounding him. So he's very slippery. He can get away pretty easy. And then with like Strike and Fade, if you don't get him in one go, he can get out of there and then he'll just be healing. Nature Aetheric, once per battle at the start of any turn. Pick a terrain feature within 6 inches of this unit to be the target. For the rest of the battle, the target gains the Place of Power terrain ability and counts as a friendly Awaken Wildwood for the purposes of Endless Growth, Walk the Hidden Paths, and Strike and Fade abilities. So he can turn something into a Place of Power, which then gets him the ability to unbind, or can, if you put it next to some other heroes, other wizards, they can get +1 to their cast roll, which is awesome. And then it turns into an Awaken Wildwood, and it's for the rest of the battle, so that will just stay there. So you can have now up to 6 Awakened Wildwoods. Granted, you can't do everything through this and through the Vengeful Skull route and through the Lady of Vines, but you can do all of the main mechanics that you need to with all the teleportation stuff and being able to get away. So having 6 different options for that, depending on what you take in your list, just makes it so it's so hard to catch up to you. And so if you ever find that you're up on the advantage and points wise they're going to have to come and chase you down and kill you for battle tactics, you can just teleport around and they'll never be able to touch you. Kurnothi Warhorn, this is in your charge phase. Pick up to 3 friendly Sylvaneth units to be the target. For the rest of the turn, each target can use charge abilities, even if they used a run ability in the same turn. Run and charge is awesome. It's 3 units. It's board wide. So you just, when you're ready to go, you say you, and you. We're going in. One of my buddies, he runs the Spite Rider Lancers, which when they charge, they have a chance to get strike first. And so they get run and charge and they get strike first. It is a pretty nasty combo to see on the battlefield. But Belthanos, I like Belthanos a lot. He's very quick, very slippery. If you do catch up to him, though, he's not super hard to kill, so you don't want to just throw him into danger without a plan. The Warsong Revenant, 5-up armor save, 6-up ward save, wizard 2, 6-inch movement, 7 health, 2 control. The Spearing Vines and Spirit Falchion, this is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. Alariel's Song, friendly Sylvaneth units have a 6+ ward while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Subtract 1 from ward rolls for enemy units while they are within 12 inches of this unit. So -1 to ward save is awesome. If you're playing against someone like Night Hunt, you're playing against any of these death armies that just have, or demon armies that have that 6-up ward save. If this guy's close enough to them, they don't get their ward save anymore because it's just -1, and from 6 to, you can't have a 7+ ward save, right? So even going from a 5-up ward save to a 6 makes a huge difference. I just played against a list that had 2 of these guys, and they were messing up all my stuff that had ward saves. So they're dangerous. They're a good piece to kind of buff your army here. You got their War Scroll spell is Unleash Swarm of Spites. Goes off on a 7. Pick a friendly Awakened Wildwood wholly within 18 inches of this unit. Pick up to 3 visible enemy units within 9 inches of that terrain feature to be the targets. Then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll a d3 for each target on a 2+. Inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. If there's a Awakened Wildwood, that's just surrounded by a whole bunch of guys. You cast this, you're just chipping away. So you can really just have a ton of magic. If you have a L'Oreal, you're getting, 5 casts if you have this. If you have the Lady of Vines, 2 more casts, right? I think this is a very magic heavy army if you want it to be. It can also be a very combat based army if you want it to be. And we'll get to some of those more combat heavy units here in a second, and combat heavy heroes here in a minute. Wyldwood Revenants. Add 1 to unbinding rolls and banishment rolls for this unit while it is wholly within 6 inches of any awakened Wyldwoods. +1 to unbind. Awesome. +1 to banishment is awesome. The Arch Revenant. This is one of my favorite models, especially like the way the Games Workshop painted theirs. I think it just looks so cool with like the mask and the horns and then the wings. I love the Sylvaneth models. I think they are some of the coolest in the game. You got so many different ways you can paint them. You can paint them with like an autumn. You can paint them cherry blossom. You can paint them winter themed. You can paint them very summer, very deep jungle theme. Like you can just do so much with this, and that's something that I love about. That's a big thing for armies with me is I love to be able to see how creative you can get with the paint scheme, how creative you can get with the basing and the terraining that you're gonna do. So these guys just do a very good job of this. I won't talk about that anymore. The Arch Revenant's got a 4-up armor save, no ward save, 12-inch movement, 6 health, 2 control. It's got the Revenant's Glaive and Tail Pincers, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. And then it has the Crescent Shield ability. This is any combat phase. Pick one of the following effects to apply to this unit for the rest of the turn. Defensive Stance. This unit has a ward of 4+. More aggressive stance, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's melee weapons and add 1 to wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks. It kind of frustrates me that we're not seeing this guy on the tabletop more because the model is so cool, first off, but also 4-up armor save, 4-up ward save seems pretty tanky to me. We're just seeing so much of the monster mash that there's not room for this guy. He's not a ton of points. I think he's like 130. So as a standalone hero, he's really good, but the Champion of the Kurnoth ability, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Kurnothi units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. You got your swords up with this guy. Your Kurnothi swords are hitting on 3s and wounding on 2s in combat will just obliterate things. Like they're already going to obliterate things, but now you can risk splitting attacks with those guys because this guy's here close. And then if you wanted to give him a 4-up ward save so he can just sit in there and just take whatever's happening, so cool. Spirit of Durthu. This is one of the combat heavy boys I was talking about. These guys are insane. So 3-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. Not a very fast unit at all. But you got the Verdant Blast, 12-inch range, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2. And then you've got the melee weapons, the Guardian Sword, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 5 with anti-monster +1 rend. And then the Massive Impaling Talons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3 with crit mortals. Spirit of Durthu hits so hard. The Guardian Sword hitting on 3s is so good. For being a damage 5 attack, like it's not a ton of attacks, but the amount of times like, okay, I'm going to all-out attack this, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, I hit and wound with everything into whatever your monster is. I'm rend 3. These are damage 5. It's 20 damage. Like just instantly kill stuff. No ward save on this guy, which is scary. He just is going to hit so much harder than whatever he's going to get hit back with by the time he's done. So while this unit has 10 or more damage points, the attack's characteristic of its Guardian Sword goes down to 3. And then you have the Titanic Duel, once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy monster in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. Subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. So he's the anti-monster guy. Wrathful Guardian. Add 1 to hit rolls for this unit's combat attacks while the target is within 3 inches of an awakened Wyldwood. If you just keep your Spirit of Durthu close to an awakened Wyldwood and your opponent gets close to that awakened Wyldwood, you +1 to hit on everything. So you're going to be hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s anyways, and then you can do an all-out defense. Your Impaling Talons hitting on 3s and wounding on 2s. Spirit of Durthu is awesome. He's a little expensive points-wise, right? But I think he's well worth it. Moving on, we got the Tree Lord. 3-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. The ranged weapons, you've got the Strangle Roots, 10-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2, with the shoot and combat ability. For melee weapons, you got the Sweeping Blows, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2, with anti-charge +1 rend. And then the Massive Impaling Talons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3, with crit mortals. Battle damage when it has 10 or more damage points. The attack's characteristic of its Sweeping Blows, goes down to 3. The Lash and Tangle ability, this is once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, subtract 1 from wound rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turn. This is really good if he's stuck in combat, especially because you got that anti-charge. If you just let him get charged by things, then you can also on a 3+ make something -1 to wound. He can just sit there and kind of take it, throw an all defense in, just kind of keep him there, let him do his thing. And then he's got the Entangling Grasp in any shooting phase. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by attacks made with this unit's Strangle Roots to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target cannot use run or retreat abilities until the start of your next turn. He can just kind of make it difficult to get to him as well. Okay, we've got the Tree Lord Ancient. 3-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 14 health, 5 control. And is a wizard level 1 as well. Ranged weapons, you got the Doom Tendril Staff, 18-inch range, 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. And then melee weapons, you've got the Sweeping Blows, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 1, damage 2, with anti-charge +1 rend. And then you got the Massive Impaling Talons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, rend 2, damage 3, with Crit Mortals. Crit Mortals, once again, I haven't said this in this video yet. Crit Mortals is awesome. Always have Crit Mortals. He's battle damage when he has 10 or more damage points, and the attack's characteristic of its Sweeping Blows goes down to 3. Ground Shaker, once per turn per army in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 4+. The target has Strike Last for the rest of the turn. Making anything Strike Last is awesome, especially if you get charged. You're like, okay, on a 4+, you can't go. I'm going to hit you before you hit me. Awakening the Wood. This is once per turn per army in your hero phase. Pick a visible friendly Awaken Wyldwood wholly within 18 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+. Inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll on each enemy unit within the target's combat range. So the Wyldwood can just kind of be chipping away. There's a lot of ways with Sylvaneth that you can really kind of chip damage, and then they have a lot of stuff that can just hit you really hard. So you can kind of chip away at some weaker things, put in 2 wounds here, 3 wounds here, a wound here, and then sweep in with all these huge things to just obliterate whatever's left. The Branch Witch, 5-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. Wizard 1, ranged weapons, you got the Swarm of Spites, 12-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with crit auto wound and the companion keyword. Melee weapons, you've got the Greenwood Scythe and Bitter Grub, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage D3. You got the Fury of the Forest, once per turn per army in the enemy combat phase. If this unit is wholly within 6 inches of any friendly Awakened Wyldwoods, pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+. The target has Strike First for the rest of the turn. We love Strike First. This army has a lot of abilities to get you to strike first or make your enemy strike last. We'll get to some of those here in a second once we get to the Spite Riders. The Branch Witch is just your typical infantry wizard, essentially. Got one little thing, one little ability that helps you out. Not going to be super great in combat, but gets you an extra cast, gets you an extra unbind. Moving on to the Gossamed Archers, 5-up armor save, 12-inch movement, 2 health, control 1. The ranged weapon, you got the Gossamed Bow, 12-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with crit auto wound and shoot in combat. And the melee weapons, they've got the Cruel Talons, 1 attack, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. They have the Forest Fighter's ability. This unit has a coherency range of 2 inches instead of the usual half inch. Once per turn in any shooting phase, they have the Zephyr Spites. If this unit uses shoot ability this phase, this unit can move d6 inches and cannot end that move in combat. So they have a built-in redeploy after they shoot. This is any shooting phase, so if you're covering fire, they can do that same redeploy. They're hard to catch up to. They're 12-inch movement, like they just zoom around the board. So these are very good to go get your objectives, take the flanks, reclaim the realms, any of those battle tactics. But they're not going to be like a huge part of, we're putting in a whole bunch of these, we're going to do a ton of damage. Like you can take these in units of 5 and have them do what they're supposed to do. The Twist Wield, 5-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. Each model in this unit is armed with Twist Root Talons. And then the champion is a Swarm Sage, and it is also armed with the Voracious Swarm. 2 of 8 models are Twist Root Wardens and must replace their Twist Root Talons with a Warden's Blade, and then 1 of 2 Twist Root Wardens can replace their Warden's Blade with a Warden's Bow and Twist Root Talons. So we'll just read through all of the profiles here real quick. The Voracious Swarm, 10-inch range, 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with shoot in combat. The Warden's Bow, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. And then the melee weapons, you've got the Twist Root Talons, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And the Warden's Blade, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 2. I haven't seen these guys on the board a whole lot. I've seen them here and there. A lot of it is just kind of in like, I'm just trying out new things, right? My opponent's like, I wanted to try some new things and kind of see what kind of coherency, what kind of synergy I can create between some of these things. This is one of them. So you've got the Eruption of Thorned Vines. Once per turn per army in any movement phase. If this unit is more than 6 inches from all other friendly Sylvaneth units, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Subtract D3 from charge rolls for the target for the rest of the turn. So it just makes it charges that much longer. You're minus 1, 2, or 3 to charges. They do have to be 6 inches away from all other friendly Sylvaneth units, so they kind of have to just be on their own. I think these guys are pretty underwhelming. I don't think they are that crazy. There's other things that are better. I'd rather take more Gossamids. I'd rather take Dryads probably than these guys, because Dryads can just kind of hold down the fort. A cool unit. I think the models are really cool, but I just love the model range in general. So Spite Rider Lancers, 4 up armor save, 12-inch movement, 5 health, control 2. The Spite Rider Lance, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge plus 1 damage, and anti-cavalry plus 1 rend. The anti-cavalry is interesting. You don't see that a ton on just base profiles. That's really good. Normally you have to give out, your honor guard to get plus 1 rend onto things. These guys just have it as their base thing. Sharp Mandibles for the mounts, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge plus 1 damage, and the companion keyword. The companions getting plus 1 damage on the charge is also an interesting one, and these guys are fast too, so these guys are probably going to be getting any charge they want, and they're very dangerous. So Forest Fighters, this unit has a coherency range of 2 inches, thrumming with life. At the end of any turn, heal this unit for 3. So if you don't kill people to the model, they're just going to heal back, and they have 5 health each, so they're tough. It's just a lot of wounds to chew through. A unit of 6 of them has 30 wounds. It's not the easiest thing to deal with. The Descent of the Spite Riders. In any combat phase, if this unit charged this turn, roll a dice on a 3+. This unit has strike first for the rest of the turn. So if these guys charge you, they're plus 1 damage on everything. They got a chance to be strike first, and then if you don't pick them up because they're going to hit you so hard, they're just going to heal back, and then they can strike and fade. So these guys are really cool. That mechanic, the strike and fade mechanic with these guys especially, being able to hit, if you can take that hit back, then you can just get out of there and get back to safety, and then just do it again. The Revenant Seekers, 4 up armor save, 12-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. The Seeker's Sickle, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1, with crit mortals. And then the Sharp Mandibles, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 1, with charge plus 1 damage, and the companion keyword. Very similar profile to the Spite Rider Lancers. They just have crit mortals instead of the plus 1 damage on the charge and the anti-cavalry. The mounts still have plus 1 damage on the charge, which is awesome. So, and the mounts are going to be doing a good chunk of damage for you. Forest Fighters, this unit has a coherency range of 2 inches. Harvesters of the Lamentiri. Each time a friendly unit wholly within 12 inches of any friendly Revenant Seekers unit uses the rally command, you can make 3 additional rally rolls of d6. That's pretty awesome, rolling with 9 dice or 10 dice, especially like if you were running these guys next to your Spite Riders. It's really hard to rally a full one of these guys back because you have to get 5. But if you're rolling 10 dice, mathematically 5 is exactly average. It's a lot of stuff to put in just for this. The Spite Riders are going to heal at the end of any turn anyways, so they'll heal. You top of the next turn, you can rally and get more health back. I think I would rather take Spite Rider Lancers over the Revenant Seekers, just because the plus 1 damage on the charge is awesome, and I think there's a lot of, if you're playing it right, you can get that every single time. You can get into the charge, you can get strike first. You got to roll, 3 up, but if you get strike first, like on a counter charge or something. Okay, we're getting into the Kurnoth now. So we've got the Kurnoth Hunters with great swords, 4 up armor save, 5-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. The Kurnoth Great Sword, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with crit mortals. Just that base profile in and of itself is so good. These guys are so scary to see on the board. They're not super fast. You can take the heroic trait to add 2 inches of movement to a unit for the rest of the turn, these guys would be, I think, a prime target for this to make them move 7. And then they can really kind of cruise across the board. But they have the Envoys of the Everqueen ability. While this unit is contesting an objective, friendly Sylvaneth units contesting that objective have a ward of 6+. So if you get a whole bunch of stuff onto one objective, and these guys are also there, everybody else is getting a 6-up ward. Trample underfoot, this is any combat phase. If this unit charged this turn, pick an enemy unit that is in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice for each model in this unit. For each 3+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. So as they're coming in on 3+, they're just blowing people up. And then they're doing crit mortals on their attacks. And if you've got the Arch Revenant, they're +1 to wound. Moving on to the Kurnoth Hunters with Scythes. 4-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. The melee weapons is the Kurnoth Scythe. 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 3. With anti-charge +1 rend. They have the Envoys of the Everqueen, same as the Kurnoth Hunters. They're on objective and other stuff is on the objective with them. Everybody else gets a 6-up ward. The Tanglethorn Thicket. This is in any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit that charged this turn and is in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice for each model in this unit. For each 3+, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. So something that I've seen a lot of is people taking a unit of this, whether it's, a standard unit or a reinforced unit, and they make them their bodyguards, and then they sit them back with like the Lady of Vines. And just make this little bubble where it's like, if you want to come into these guys, you are getting blown up by these guys if you don't take care of them in one go. And if the Lady of Vines throws out her ward save spell, these guys have a 5-up ward save. It just makes these guys really hard to kill. If you go into them, they're -1 attacks. If they're the bodyguard special rule, like, these guys are just nasty to deal with. Damage 3. If you charge into them, they're rend 2. Like, it's not something that you want to see. But it's a very good defensive piece for this army. Any way you want to run any of the Kurnoth, I think is very, very doable. If you want to run swords, you got ways to do it. If you want to run scythes, you got ways to do it. If you got bows, you got ways to do it. So the Kurnoth Hunters with great bows, 4-up armor save, 5-inch movement, 5 health, 2 control. They've got the Kurnoth great bows, 18-inch range, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, with anti-hero +1 rend. Their melee weapons, they've got the Vicious Claws, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, no rend, damage 1. But then the steady aim, this is why everybody is so scared of these guys. These are just your hero snipers. They're just going to, from 18 inches out, they're just going to blast into them. And you might be thinking, hey, guarded hero. But the steady aim ability, this is in your shooting phase. For the rest of the turn, this unit can ignore the effects of the guarded hero ability when picking targets for its shooting attacks. So guarded hero is if you have an infantry or a cavalry hero, if they're within the combat range of another infantry unit or I think a cavalry unit, you're -1 to hit them if you're within 12 inches, and if you're outside of 12 inches, you cannot shoot them at all. These guys can just blast from wherever they are. Many a noble hero has gone down to Kurnoth Hunters with great bows. It happens all the time. And it is the most frustrating thing to do, especially if they go first and on their first turn, they're like, well, I'm going to kill this hero and he's gone. And then with my other unit of bows, I'm going to shoot this other hero and he's gone. So these guys are really good. If you can get into them, though, as somebody who's played against these guys a lot, if you get into these guys, they're not that scary in combat. They also have the Envoys of the Everqueen ability. So the same thing, contesting objective, everybody else gets a 6-up ward that's also contesting that objective. Dryads, 5-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 1 health, 1 control. They have the Racking Talons, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1. And then they have Blessings of the Forest. Subtract 1 from hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks that target this unit while it is wholly within 6 inches of any friendly awakened Wyldwoods. So if these guys are just so much better around the forest. I like Dryads a lot. They're cheap. They're like 100 points for 10 of them, I think. You run a big block of 20 of these, and you just keep them in a forest. And you get these guys onto an objective, but they're wholly within 6 inches of that awakened Wyldwood that's right there next to them. -1 to hit, -1 to wound. They're going to be impossible to take off that objective. It's going to be so annoying. Tree Revenants. 5-up armor save, 6-inch movement, 2 health, 1 control. They've got the Protector Glaive and Blade, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. And then they've got the Waypiper's Dance. This is once per turn per army in your movement phase. If this unit is not in combat, remove it from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. I think these guys, I don't want to say must take, but they don't have to roll on their teleport thing. They just have to not be in combat. And so you just stick them. My buddy who plays these guys always just sticks them in the back corner, and then he just waits for you to hop off an objective. And once he's got a chance to go get it, he just takes them and throws them onto an objective. And it's super annoying because they're super easy to forget about. They're not doing any damage. They're not really that much of a threat to you, but they're just there to get points and battle tactics and objectives and things. And it's so frustrating to play against. I think they're a must take. Spite Revenants, 5 attacks, movement 5, 2 health, 1 control. They've got the Cruel Talons and Fangs, 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, no rend, damage 1 with crit mortals. And then they've got Unbridled Malice. In any combat phase, pick an enemy infantry unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice. On a 3+, the target cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. This is just like a very standard little infantry unit. They're not going to be doing a whole bunch. They are 3 attacks each, but they're not going to be really a hard hitter for you. But that is my review of the Sylvaneth army. Once again, love the models. I think they're so cool. You got all kinds of stuff. You got huge monsters with Ilario and Belthanos and the Tree Lords. And then you've got these super intricate little infantry units with the Kurnoth guys, and you've got the Gossamed archers, and then their cavalry, those bugs. They just all look so cool all together, and like the magic all fits with it. It's just a very cool army. I know if you're a Sylvaneth player and you're watching this video, I know how hard it's been to go from 3rd to 4th. I've heard my buddy talk about it all the time, especially right at the beginning. But your army is still super cool, and your army is still super dangerous on the tabletop. Does a lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot of synergy with all the heroes and all the units and the magic. Like it is an awesome army. I love it. I love to see it on the table. Love to see them painted. They're just so cool. If you like this video, please leave a like, leave a comment if you play these guys. If you're running something that isn't, the meta, what army are you running here? Are you running more Kurnoth? Are you running more Spite Riders? Are you running Revenant Seekers? Are you running 4 Spirit of Durthus? Are you monster mashing? Like what army are you running? Like leave a comment in there. Go subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep on putting more of these out. Now that the summer's coming up, we have a little bit more time to really get a lot more content out here. Please, please, please like, subscribe, comment, help us out. Like this video. Go see some of our other videos as well. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.